Hello, everybody, and welcome to PandaCast. I am Rainbow Panda, and today we are going to be talking about, among other things, the terrible decisions that WWE has been making since Wrestlemania. Now, I'm guessing that if you're listening to this, you've been keeping up with everything that's been going on with the COVID-19 pandemic, all the cancellations, all of the changes that it's made, not only to pretty much everyone on the planet's day-to-day life, but also every business industry in the United States where I'm living, as well as a lot of other countries, are doing pretty much the same thing as we are here. I live in New York City, so in the country, we're sort of have the worst outbreak. I wouldn't say we have the most restrictions. While a state has done a lot of stuff to restrict things, I feel like there are some changes that they could make that would further help, but I'm not in the government, nor do I want to be, so for now, we're just doing what they say, and part of the restrictions pretty much countrywide are all major sports, concert venues, any like big arena type shows are being canceled, postponed, or in some capacities. I've only really seen it with professional wrestling, but I don't watch a lot of other like sports and things. But I know like the NBA, the NHL, the baseball league, all of those have canceled. So I think it is mainly wrestling that you're seeing this with. They're doing things in empty arenas. So it started off, WWE had the first show. It wasn't great, but I mean they tried. AEW has been, in my opinion, a lot more successful at capturing the empty arena crowd. I like their shows a lot more. NXT is also doing it, and I feel like even the way NXT does it is a little bit different than the way WWE is executing it, which is different, but I think that WWE has kind of seen the positive feedback that AEW has been given. After the first AEW show, WWE did change the way that they were doing their crowdless shows, and they are better, but it's still the weakest show to me. Raw and SmackDown have not been the most enjoyable, and after the announcements that were made this past week, it's just going more downhill. Now, all of this pandemic, they had an empty arena Wrestlemania. It went 2 nights. There were, to me, some pros and cons of Wrestlemania. I am not going to get too much into Wrestlemania. I might do a whole separate podcast just on Wrestlemania and my thoughts on it. But I don't know, my highs for this Wrestlemania, I don't know if it's something that they're going to be able to replicate because, having the pre-recorded matches like the Firefly Funhouse match and the Boneyard match, I don't know how well that would be, like showing something like that to a crowd of 80 to 100,000 people. I don't know how that would be received, so I don't know that that's something that they'll be able to do every year. But I'm not going to get into my thoughts on all of WrestleMania. But all of WrestleMania weekend was canceled. I did not go to Tampa like I was supposed to for my indie shows that I was going to attend. No one did. Like, none of the indie stuff happened. It was all canceled, and a lot of those businesses experienced a lot of financial hardships from having to cancel. One, because I don't know that there's any sort of clause in any contract that guarantees a refund for this type of cancellation, and also because it wasn't something that the state of Florida declared they had to cancel, or WWE didn't cancel, so it was really hard for them to recoup all of their funds. And I can say, just from my small single person, not a business standpoint, I still haven't received my refund on my flight or anything like that. I am expecting it, but I haven't heard. I think that all airfare and hotels and just all of that kind of travel industry is just so overwhelmed with things right now that I'm expecting it, but I'm not expecting it anytime soon. So luckily I'm not depending on that refund, but I will gladly welcome it whenever it happens. So this past week, I believe on Monday, they announced that the state of Florida had decided that WWE was to be considered an essential business. So, an essential business, if anyone for some reason is unaware, I think it does kind of vary from state to state. In New York, it's pretty much any sort of, obviously, hospitals, doctors' offices, but it's also like laundry, grocery stores, fast food. Here, liquor stores are considered essential. I know some states they're not. I'm not really a fan of them being considered essential, but I'm also not a big fan of like restaurants being considered essential, but that's just my personal opinion. But the state of Florida this week decided that WWE was considered an essential business. So that means that they can resume their operations, they can have shows, it just has to be not in front of a crowd. So there still will not be an audience for the foreseeable future, but it sounds like between their facilities at Full Sail and the Performance Center and any other property that they own in the state of Florida, they will be considered able to conduct operations. Now, I am semi-curious. For a while, AEW was doing shows in Jacksonville at the stadium that's there that the Khan family owns. I'm not sure if now there's a loophole that since this one professional wrestling organization is considered essential, that all professional wrestling in the state of Florida is considered essential. That hasn't ever been talked about, but that will be interesting to see if you start seeing more like crowdless indie shows and stuff like that popping up in Florida because wrestling can now be done there. I would like to see the indie stuff. I would like to see some GCW shows, any other indie label that wants to go there, if that's allowed. I would openly watch that, but I'm not really excited about the fact that WWE is like lobbied to the government to be considered essential. They are not essential. As much as I love professional wrestling and as much as everybody loves professional wrestling, I don't know of anyone that was happy by this decision besides probably the board members of WWE. I have heard rumors that the reason that this happened is that some money was given, whether it was for the governor or just somehow went directly to the state of Florida, that kind of, I guess, allegedly a bribe, you could call it, was given for this. I did read a figure. I do not remember how much it was, but it was in the millions. I have also heard that WWE was feeling pressure from USA and Fox to kind of get this to happen because their contracts with those two networks was for live television, and lately they've been going on pre-recorded footage. I think they were allowed to have a certain amount of pre-recorded, like usually every year, if I have heard correctly, their like Christmas episodes and stuff is not live. It's like a pre-recorded thing, so they're allowed to have a certain amount every year, and they've already exceeded or are coming up on that limit, so they needed to be able to shoot live footage again. However, if that is true, and the networks are going to cancel their contracts with this organization because of that, I would like to say shame on the networks, because you can't predict this. Like, I don't think anyone would have predicted that this COVID-19 outbreak would have become what it was. It's not anyone's fault that they cannot do a live show right now. All sports, as I said earlier, are closed right now. I don't think that ESPN or Fox or any of these networks that show baseball, hockey, basketball, any of them are going to be canceling their contracts with the organizations because they're not currently playing. So in the event that that was true, I would like to say that the networks are in the wrong here, but also the WWE is not in the right here no matter what. But they are now allowed to conduct business. So that's one thing. Okay, great. As much as I don't think that wrestling's essential, if that's what happens, then it's what happened. Like I said, maybe we'll get more indie wrestling out of this. I don't know. But literally the next day, not only was Vince McMahon announced to be on the board that is, I guess, partially determining when the country should reopen, or something like that. It's a bunch of sports people: Dana White, Vince McMahon, Mark Cuban, a bunch of other sports people that I don't know their names. But the next day, they announced that due to everything that's going on with the economy, they have to cut over 20 people from their roster to be able to afford their lives. And I was, like everyone else, very shocked that they would say that. This is the largest wrestling organization in the world. They are in multiple countries. They bring in millions, if not billions of dollars annually. And they are having to cut employees because they can no longer afford the salaries that they were promised and need to save money. So, just a list of some of the people. It came in waves, and not even all of the people that were announced on WWE.com with the typical, we have released the following superstars, we wish them best in their future endeavors. Not even all of them got to be mentioned in this post, but some of the more, we'll just go down the whole list. So in no particular order, we have Kurt Angle, Drake Maverick, Curt Hawkins, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Heath Slater, Eric Young, EC3, Aiden English, Leo Rush, Sarah Logan, Erick Rowan, Primo, Epico, Mike Kanellis, Maria Kanellis, Zack Ryder, No Way Jose, Rusev, referee Mike Chioda, Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, Pat Buck, Fit Finley, Sean Davari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, Shane Helms, and Lance Storm. There may be a couple others that did not make the list, but that is the main bulk of the list. There have also been a few NXT superstars that were let go as well. They're not in this list. But just off the bat, I don't understand how no other company has cut anybody. There are indie promotions that are potentially going to be filing for bankruptcy and that lost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars by WrestleMania weekend being canceled. And they haven't released anyone from their company. They haven't canceled their shows forever. They haven't, closed their doors. They're just trying to plan their next move without doing anything drastic. AEW hasn't cut anyone. Ring of Honor hasn't cut anyone. NWA hasn't cut anyone. Impact hasn't cut anyone. No one else has cut anybody. And none of them have the money that the WWE has. And I have read that the salaries, I don't know if it's the salaries of all of the talent or just the salaries of the talent that was released. I believe it was of all talent. Of just the wrestlers, the salaries combined is less than 10% of the expenses that this company has. So They could have cut costs anywhere else. Like, a lot of these names were major names and people that did not deserve to get cut, did not deserve to just lose their jobs without being able to make a plea. I've read the transcripts for the messages that these people received about how they were no longer going to be with the company, and they're very sad. It was very short, it was very blunt. It was not a big, lengthy conversation, and we appreciate everything that you've done and everything like that. It was very just blunt and to the point, and these people deserve so much more than that. And I hope that the ones that really want to stay are able to somehow get back into the company. And I hope that those that realize the talent that they have and that they were never used properly with the WWE are able to get into companies where they will be utilized properly and will have the best careers that they can. So, with that being said, I would like to go through this list again and kind of talk about where I think these people should go next. So, to start the list, Kurt Angle, he, before going back to WWE, had been in TNA/Impact for a while and done a few other circuits. And I honestly, I could see him going back to TNA on a more consulting basis. I'm not sure what their behind the scenes life looks like right now, but I could see him potentially going and being a behind the scenes person. I think he would also do well in Ring of Honor in sort of the same role. I don't know that he needs to get into the ring and wrestle, but he could make cameo appearances every once in a while, and I think that would work. Or he could just decide that his career is actually over and just fully retire. I'm not sure if he's interested in that, but at the end of the day, he's definitely one that I would hope he would potentially get rehired once whatever's going on with WWE subsides. I mean, this whole list has the potential to get rehired, but I think that that would be just that would just make it so dumb to have released them in the first place if you're just going to rehire them. The next person on the list was, well, it wasn't the most heartbreaking to me. They had the most heartbreaking reaction, and that was Drake Maverick. Now, like I said, I don't think he was ever used properly in WWE, but his reaction to this was very raw, very real, and you can't help but feel for him. Now, he is in the tournament that NXT is doing for one of their currently, I guess, not completely vacated, but the person that is holding this title is in another country and unable to come to the States right now to defend it. So they're kind of making like an interim champion. I don't know if that means that eventually that whoever wins this tournament and the current champion are going to go like head to head to see who like the actual undisputed champion is or what's going to happen. But the person that was let go that is still in this tournament is Drake Maverick. And he I don't know what's going to happen in this tournament because they announced that he was fired, but apparently these matches have not been already recorded, or if they have been, he is just really sticking to the storyline because he's kind of vowing like, I still have time left, like I still have matches. I'm going to make the most of this. He really makes it sound like he's going to do whatever he can during these matches to make the company change their mind about letting him go, and hopefully he is able by the end to stay on instead of being let go. I do not know if that's a possibility for him. I don't know anything besides what's been on the internet, but I do know that I believe it was like just a 2 or 3 minute reaction. It was just very emotional and very pulls at your heartstrings. And if you haven't watched it, I would highly suggest it. But I do think that he, like I said, he was not used properly in WWE. He does seem to really want to stay with the company. So if that's what he really wants, I hope that he gets that opportunity. But I could also see him doing really well. I would say I would like to put him in Ring of Honor. I could also see him potentially doing okay in AEW. As I go through this list, I do not have every person going to AEW, but I do have a, a good percentage. Maybe, I mean, less than half. But I do think that if AEW continues to sign the people that they are already planning on signing, and any of these now free agents, that whenever they get a second show, it's going to have to be, I want them to have the ability to showcase the talent that they have and it not be a WWE situation where they have so many people that they don't know what to do with them and people sort of get neglected. I don't want anyone to get neglected in any of these organizations. It's just, this list is just where I would like to see them. I'm not saying necessarily that it's the perfect fit or it's the right time or anything like that. So the next one on the list is Curt Hawkins. I think that I honestly think that he would do the best in AEW. There's a couple of different reasons for that. I won't go too much into it right now because he kind of goes with another one of the superstars that is further down on the list. But I would like to see him in AEW. I will say that is the only option that I have for him. Or he could do the indies as well. He could do a bunch of different indie promotions and do really well. He has his wrestling school in New York that he could just focus on and try to make it like the best that it can be. But I think if he's going to go to a major promotion, I would recommend AEW for Curt Hawkins. The next two, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, I kind of think that they have already, in a way, announced where they're going to be going. I think that they will now be wrestling under the tag team of the Good Brothers. And I do believe it, at least the hints sound like they will be going back to New Japan. And I'm not sure if they would also potentially consider doing a Ring of Honor tour as well. But I think if they did like the Ring of Honor and New Japan kind of schedule, that would be really good for them. They were two on this list that were most surprising to me as being released because, they're with AJ and AJ was not released. And I really saw them as a strong trio. They were the OC, the only original, I don't remember all the O's, but the only club that matters. And so now AJ's a solo guy. He doesn't have anyone else with him. And he's just going to have to be AJ Styles. So he's not part of a unit. And it was just very strange because, Anderson and Gallows, they were part of Wrestlemania. And they were part of AJ's Boneyard match with The Undertaker. And I thought maybe that they had requested their release. And so they were just thrown in, even though they had wanted it. But in reading interviews and hearing AJ talk, I feel like AJ kind of feels bad for the situation, and because of his reaction, I don't think that they were two people that had requested their release. I think for some reason they were just decided to be cut. So that sucks, but I do think that they had strong careers before WWE and that they will consider to continue to have strong careers afterwards. The next one on the list is Heath Slater. It's kind of a bad time for him as well. He had been getting a lot of attention recently because at WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre won the title from Brock Lesnar. So it's his first heavyweight title run in the company. And, people were kind of turning to Heath Slater with like, oh, like, what do you think about this? You used to be in a tag team with him. And with Jinder Mahal, you guys, were 3MB, three-man band, and there were a lot of memes and things, Jinder bulked up and he won a title. Drew bulked up and now he's won a title. So, Heath, just go and like get really strong and really big and, you're next. Like you have to win the title. 3MB has to all be past title holders. And there was a nice moment on, I think it was backstage or one of WWE's like shows where it was Heath and Drew and they were talking and they were having a moment. And I think that to me, it just seemed like it was the perfect time for Heath to kind of get another big push. But instead, for whatever reason, he has been released. For me, I think that Heath would do the best. I think he could be good in AEW if he was used properly. I think that he could do good in Ring of Honor. If he wanted to tag with Rhino again, he could go back to Impact, but I feel like Rhino kind of has everything handled with what he has there. I don't know that he would have room for Heath. Or I think that Heath Slater could do really good on the indies as well. He's a really strong personality. He's really good. He could teach the guys there kind of how to improve on themselves while also being entertaining and doing his own things in matches. So I think that Heath Slater definitely has a career ahead of him. I'm just not sure exactly where he's going to land. And I could see him getting signed back by WWE at a certain amount of time, but who knows? The next one is Eric Young. Eric Young was one of those talents that I was always surprised that he got signed to WWE, not because he's not talented enough for it, but to me, I saw him as somebody who was always going to be in TNA and Impact, although I also always thought that about AJ, and then he did end up signing to WWE also. I think, Eric Young, I don't think he was ever utilized properly. He was never, a main roster show. He was on NXT for the longest time, and to me, on NXT was when he was utilized the best. I think his faction that he had, I liked them. I didn't see them as much. I feel like they could have been better if they had been given more of like an Undisputed Era type of push. But I do think that they were really good. However, I don't think that he was really used the best in 205 Live and any of the other shows in WWE that he appeared on more solo. And ultimately, I could see Eric Young having, if he were to go back to Impact, I think he would do well. I could also see him just kind of doing indies. I think that he would really fit well in GCW with the scene that they have going on there right now, or at least the scene that they had before the everything happened. I think that he could have some really good matches with some of their talent, which, I mean, they don't have exclusive contracts to anyone, but they do kind of have the same regulars, and I think that he could fit in really well with them. But, I mean, if he were to go to any of the other major organizations, I think he would do well. I just think that he has a lot of talent and he just needs to be used properly. The next one is EC3, which I've seen a lot of people saying that EC currently should stand for Essential Character, which would be great. It's not what it stands for. But calling him Essential Character would make it just so much more heartbreaking that he did get released, because that would mean that he's not essential. I feel like I'm going to say this about so many of this list, but it's true. A lot of these people were just not used properly, and WWE, for whatever reason, just didn't use them right, and that sucks. And this is a thing of know what you have and use them right. EC3, he could have been really good at so many things, and I don't think that he was really used properly. I would like to see him end up, I think he could do really well in AEW, Indies, or going back to Impact. Any of those three, I think he could do well. I think he could do well in NXT if he were to go back there. but I don't know if WWE is gonna, until WWE gets rid of all of the legends, all of the same mainstays, and actually just puts faith in the younger up and coming talent. I don't know that these people are going to be used the way that they should. The next one on the list, Aiden English. I I don't know why I think this, but whenever I think of him, I just feel like maybe he could do well in Ring of Honor. I really don't have a reason for that. It's just, if I was going to guess, I would guess Ring of Honor. The next person on the list is Leo Rush, and he was another one that I was very surprised to see that he was being released, because I felt like he was kind of starting to get another push. He had been on TV recently, and I thought that his stuff was really good. He got a lot of positive feedback on commentary, and I was just really surprised to see him on this list because of everything that's been going on. I don't have a specific spot that I feel like he should go. I think that he literally could fit in anywhere. He could get re-signed to WWE, he could go to Impact, he could go to Ring of Honor, he could go to AEW, he could go to NWA, he could be on the indies, he could just be anywhere and be great. So I will be very interested to see where he ends up, because I think that he, of the people on this list, is one of the top losses for the company. The next one is Sarah Logan, which I was a little surprised by because she kind of has a connection in a way to the Viking Raiders, and so I don't know what their thought process was there. She had also just had a match on Raw recently with Shayna Baszler for a qualifying thing for Money in the Bank, and she didn't win. They did accidentally announce her as the winner instead of Shayna Baszler, but she never really got a huge push, but I did think that she would not be one of the people on this list. To me, I would like to see her in AEW. I don't know. I feel like they have a lot going on with their women's division, but I think that unique characters are something that they have a lot of and that they use properly. So I think it could be interesting. I think it would be interesting to see like her versus like Britt Baker or something. I don't know. I think that she could just do really well there. I don't know if she would be interested, but potentially maybe starting some like New Japan stuff could be interesting for her as well, but we'll see what happens. The next one on the list is Erick Rowan. He was someone who just got done with a major storyline over the last few months. He had had his like caged pet, which turned out to be this weird, obviously fake spider, and afterwards it was quickly squashed. I never really thought that he was used properly after Luke Harper got released, and then after all the stuff that happened with the Wyatt family kind of disintegrated. Some of these are people like Erick Rowan, Luke Harper, like, were the only reasons that they were ever even in the company was to be part of like Bray Wyatt's vision for the Wyatt family, or did WWE sign them with the intentions of actually using them? Because it seemed like they had one kind of stereotypical role and they were never really used for anything besides that. You get a little bit of Luke Harper's, now Brody Lee's, frustrations if you listen to the Talk is Jericho podcast that he was on. And now seeing that Erick Rowan has been released, I don't see him coming back to WWE anytime soon. I think that he is probably somebody that felt like he was not used properly. He was not used to the best of his abilities, and that creative was just giving him stuff that didn't work. I could see him being frustrated with stuff. So I could see him, I think he could be a good add-on for Impact. If they wanted to put him with the Dark Order, they could send him to AEW, but I would almost like to see what Erick Rowan can do on his own without Brody Lee or Luke Harper or any of like the old Wyatts that he was associated with, but just seeing like who Erick Rowan is on his own. I would like to see that. The next people on my list, Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis. It's it's interesting because I feel like Mike had sort of just resigned semi recently, and now he has been released. The two of them, I think they could do well in the indies. I could see them going back to Impact. And I also have NWA in mind. I don't know that they would go to AEW. I could see them re-signing with WWE, but I don't know that they were ever really used properly in WWE either. I feel like I'm going to say that about everybody, but I don't know that they were used properly. The next one on my list was, to me, in my opinion, of the wrestlers, it was the saddest one. And it's because I've always been such a big fan. I think for like 13, 15 years, something like that, he's been around. And I've always been around for him. And he had such a unique story. And in the beginning, it wasn't announced that he was released. And whenever his tag partner was released, I was like, oh, but they didn't get rid of him because like they can never get rid of him. And then it was later said that he was part of it too, and that is Zack Ryder. Now, Zack Ryder is one of those guys that I definitely 1,000,000,000% do not think he was ever used to the best of his abilities. He was given different small opportunities here and there. He did have some title runs, but I don't think he ever had the champion longevity that I would have liked to have seen. I would he's just so much more than like somebody that you put a belt on just to have him drop it a month later or a day later or a week later. He has such a charismatic personality. He is just so wonderful to his fans, to his coworkers. He is very beloved in the locker room, and he just always wanted a chance to prove himself. You know, back in 2011, when it seemed like he was going to get let go the first time, he was frustrated and he started something on the internet that was then sort of the stepping stone for WWE creating their own social media, and that was the Z True Long Island Story. I tuned in and watched it every week. It was so amazing. I loved it. I wish he would bring it back. And he had other wrestlers in it, and I really think that that's one of the things that saved his career, is showing what he could do and kind of him admitting, like, you know, I'm not used the best, I'm not the most popular, I'm very much overlooked. You know, I have this internet title because they won't give me a real one. And just having nothing left to lose, so he just puts it all out there. And from there, he was given some opportunities, and he kind of developed the catchphrase of, you know, still here. Like, no matter what, I'm still here. And then, you know, coming back and teaming up with Hawkins again and having they're never defeated. Like, no matter what, they're never defeated. And I appreciated them so much for so many reasons. I just thought that they were never used to the best of their ability in the tag teams. They, to me, should have been one of the strongest tag teams on the roster. I would have liked to have seen them instead of, you know, having Seth Rollins and Murphy be a tag team and all these like tag teams that they've just kind of created with random people. I would have liked for them to have just used Hawkins and Ryder correctly. And they definitely were two individuals that they could have just been known as like Edge clones for their whole career, but they really did step outside of that, and they were able to get rid of it. And to me, that is amazing that they were able to, because those are big shoes to fill. I mean, when Edge came back, obviously Zack Ryder doesn't have the hair for it anymore, but they could have tried to do something with him again. I would have loved to have seen that. But Zack Ryder, to me, especially with everything that's been going on, to me, in my heart of hearts, there's only one place that I would like to see Zack Ryder go, and that is to AEW. I think that there's so many different things that he could do there. I would like to see Curt Hawkins go as well. They could do their tag team thing together, or Cody Rhodes has been tweeting a lot about Zack Ryder and how he is, upset that he was released and all this other stuff. And I feel like with Cody this upset about it, him and Cody could have a tag team. And there have been tweets. This is not original thing from my brain, but Zack Ryder, while his real name is Matt Cardona, he could, I think. I don't know what his trademarks are. I'm guessing that he can't use Zack Ryder spelled the way that Zack Ryder is currently spelled. But if he really wanted to keep the Zack Ryder name, I'm sure there's some variation spelling of Zack and Ryder. Both of those are words that can be spelled multiple ways. So there's multiple combinations. I think that he could keep the Zack Ryder name, and worst case scenario, just be Zack or something like that. And he could team with Cody, and then their name would be like Zack and Cody. And that, if anyone isn't aware, that was like a popular Disney show in the early 2000s. And it could just go on from there. Either way, I would love to see Zack Ryder in AEW. To me, that's the only place. And I think that he really should try to branch out and try another company for once. Like, I know that you've been there forever, Zack, and I know that you tried so hard to, like, be patient with them, and no matter what, you stuck by their sides, but this is how they treated you. And I think that it's time that you spread your wings and you go somewhere else, even if it's just for a little bit, to, like, make sure that you're in the right company if the time comes for you to come back to WWE. So yes, Zack Ryder, AEW, it's the only thing that I want for him, and I think he would do really good. Next one on the list, No Way Jose. I think that he would do well in Impact or AEW if he is used correctly. In AEW, I could see him kind of keeping the No Way Jose gimmick. I think that they have the market for it. People would be interested in it. I think that could be cool. Next on the list is one that a lot of other people were most surprised by. I was also very surprised by it, and that is Rusev. Now, Rusev, once again, had just kind of signed a newer contract. He was also one of the superstars whenever everything started happening. WWE got rid of their non-essential employees. So just like maybe like some stage crew, camera people, backstage people, I don't know if they were fired, but they definitely were like laid off without pay. So they didn't have an income coming in. And Rusev was one of the first individuals to step out and put on social media that he wanted to donate, I think it was $20,000 of his own money to this crew. So he gave up his own money because he wanted to help support, these workers. And now he's sort of repaid with saying, okay, well, now you don't have a job. Lana was not included in this. She is still with the company, at least as of right now. I think that's very interesting. We'll see what happens with that. Rusev, I think he deserves better. I think that he could be used a lot better. And kind of with a lot of other talent, I think that he could do well in AEW or in Impact. We'll see where he ends up going. If he just takes a break, gets re-signed with WWE, I could see that happening for him, especially since his wife is there, but I would like to see him potentially go to AEW or Impact. The one that I think everyone was most upset by, non-wrestler wise, referee Mike Chioda. He has been with the company for so long. I feel like he's been with the company almost as long as, like, I've been alive. And he's always been there. You always hear, oh, referee Mike Chioda this, Mike Chioda that. Referees, I mean, every organization needs them. I could see him hopefully getting rehired, but it is kind of weird. Like, if you're getting rid of this guy after this long, like, will you ever bring him back? Or are you just out for new talent? Was he being paid too much because of his senior referee status? So they got rid of him? I don't really know. I don't know what company is in the most need of referees right now. I would say maybe Impact for him. I wouldn't say AEW because I think that they have a strong ref crew, and I think that he is sort of somebody that deserves to be like a senior referee, and I don't know that AEW has the need for that. I think that they have some really strong referees, and I don't know that they need a leader to be brought in because I think they already have that from who they currently have. And the rest of the list is pretty much just behind the scenes, trainers, advisors, different people like that. I was actually expecting to see Joseph Parks on this list. I don't really know why. I just thought that of all the people, maybe he would be one of the first to be let go. But he was not on this list at all. So good for him. Still love Joseph Parks. Have history. Love him. Wonderful. Who were on this list, there were some that really, really surprised me. So we have Billy Kidman. That one surprised me. And as far as all these behind the scenes talent, they could really go anywhere. There's only 3 that I have very strong opinions on where they should go. So the ones that could literally go anywhere, I think, and do well: Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, Pat Buck, Sean Devari, Scott Armstrong, and Sarah Stock. I think that any of them could go anywhere. Maybe put Sarah in whatever organization has the biggest need for like female talent development. I'm not really sure. I'm watching the shows lately. I know that Impact recently signed Kylie Ray. They have been doing some switching up with some of their women's division, but I think that they do have a good enough one that I don't know that they have the need that like WWE has of like bringing in people to help out with the talent, but maybe. But I would either put Sarah in AEW or in Impact. The rest of them could go literally anywhere. They could go back to WWE. They could indies. Some of them have their own wrestling schools. They could focus on anything. I think they would be okay. The 3 that I really think should go to AEW: Fit Finley, Shane Helms, and Lance Storm. Those were the 3 that kind of hit me the hardest of the behind the scenes talent. The main ones, Fit Finley, I was just shocked by, because if you listen to pretty much anyone that's more up and coming, but especially the female talent, they all accredit Fit with being the reason why they're there, why they were able to be successful. You know, the women's evolution, they have pretty much all said it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Fit Finley. There have been multiple Hall of Fame speeches by women saying they wouldn't have gotten to where they were if it wasn't for Fit Finley. Fit was just so instrumental in the training and the guidance and the advice and the mentorship of so many superstars. And I am really interested to see if now that he's gone, if he's not brought back, if it will be noticeable down the line. Like, there will just be a before Fit and after Fit in this company, and the after Fit group just won't be as strong as the before Fit or during Fit. That's what I think he could do really well in AEW. I don't know that they have a lot of training that needs to happen, but I just think that having somebody with like that kind of skill and that kind of guidance would be really good for a new company. And so I hope that he does go to AEW if he doesn't go back to WWE. Shane Helms, I think the Hurricane character, you know, he has connections with the Young Bucks already. He's done stuff with them on Being the Elite and different things. So I think that, you know, just given the other talent that's there and everything, that he would fit in the best in AEW. He could go to Impact and be successful. He could get hired back to WWE. He could just stay home. He could do whatever he wanted. I think he would do well at anything, but I would like to see him in AEW because I think that he would be utilized really well there. And besides Fit Finley, the second most sad for me is Lance Storm. Lance Storm was sort of new in being in development for WWE. I mean, he's been in and out for years, but he finally had decided, like, this is kind of where I'm going to end my career. He had decided to take this job to, I believe, be home more with his family, but also, like, make a little bit more money. And, but mainly, I think it was focused on, being home for family, which normally WWE, you think of the opposite, but before he was doing his role there, he was doing a wrestling school, and it sounded like he was there all the time. He was always, the main teacher, the main everything. He had months, if not years, booked in advance of people, and he finally, WWE gave him an offer. He decided to close his school, sell the building, sell everything, and he went there. So he gave up everything to go to this company, and now, a mere 3 to 4 months later, they have released him. So that has to be one of the biggest slaps in the face, almost. He literally gave up everything that he had built this whole thing. And, like, yeah, he could open up a new wrestling school, but, he would have to literally start from the ground up, I believe, because he did, like, sell everything. There is a Talk is Jericho podcast about that as well, that he did an interview with him. That's interesting if you guys are interested in learning about it. I think that he would be the best in AEW, but he did train a couple of the people that are now on Impact. So it would be interesting if he did go back to a company where he had a lot of proteges, a lot of former students, to see if they made that into some sort of angle. So that sort of concludes the list of people that were released. My opinions on where I think they should go. The only ones that I'm really strong about are Fit Finlay, Lance Storm, Zack Ryder, and we'll see. Let me know if you have an opinion on where any of these people should go. They were not released at this time. They were granted their release on their own, but the Revival have also been free agents now. And they have to go to AEW. Like, they have to. It would just make so much sense. It sounds like they're going to be, they have already rebranded themselves. Dax Harwood and Cash. I do not remember Cash's last name currently, but they have rebranded themselves. I don't know if they've said their official name, but it sounds like it's going to be something about the Revolt. It might just be the Revolt, but they're using the letters for FTR, which anyone who knows about the history between the Revival, Cody Rhodes, the Elite, all the being the Elite segments and stuff, it's just so perfect. They have to go to AEW. They have to. If they sign with anyone else, it will not be good. It's the only way. It's the only way. And on top of that, all of these people, Zack Ryder, who were the three that I saw? Zack Ryder, Heath Slater. There was one other one, but Zack Ryder and Heath Slater have both released these amazing t-shirts since their release on Pro Wrestling Tees. And I highly suggest going and getting one of each or more of each, and also just supporting any of these talent. Even though they were released from WWE, so in theory they would have a lot of money, it is still nice to know that you're wanted and that you're supported and appreciated by fans. Okay, I'm almost done, so you're just gonna sit over here. Thank you. It's just nice to know that you're appreciated by your fans and that they are really here for you in all times and will support you. So I would highly suggest going to Pro Wrestling Tees, checking out all the new merch, buying a Zack Ryder shirt, buying a Heath Slater shirt, buying any wrestler shirts. All indie wrestling in general needs a bailout. So helping out in whatever ways you can. they just got done with a sale last week, so WWE really like screwed people of being able to get a sale. I want to buy a lot of these shirts, but I also literally just bought like 11 shirts from the sale that they just had. So I don't have the closet space, but I'm gonna find a way because I have to have the new Zack Ryder shirt, and the Heath Slater shirt is really amazing also. So go check all those out. I will talk about this in the next podcast, but if my match recommendation is going to be the quarantine match, the social distance match between Joey Janela and Jimmy Lloyd from the GCW event that was shot while they could still shoot sort of no crowd shows. And that's all I have for this week. So thank you guys for watching or listening. This is now available on pretty much all podcast platforms, on YouTube, anywhere that you can see podcasts. And I hope to be more frequent. Social distancing is hard. I'm working a lot because I'm unfortunately still considered essential. And we'll see what happens. But I look forward to talking to you guys again soon, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.